Hey, hi, how are you? My name's Felt, and welcome back to Final Fantasy XIV, and today we're talking about Bard. So, Bard's actually in the best state that I've personally seen it in. Of course, to be fair, my limited experience really only applies to Shadowbringers and Endwalker, but Bard feels really good right now. You don't know how the job functions at its core level. You have your songs that you will be rotating throughout fights. You have your self buffs that you will apply for your burst window every X amount of time. It used to be 80 seconds, now it's every 2 minutes. Really nice, we're now a 2-minute burst job. And on top of that, it's kind of an RNG based job, because when you're in each song, there's an 80% chance to get a proc of something. In Wanderer's Minuet, there's a chance you'll get 1/3 of a Pitch Perfect. In Mage's Ballad, there's a chance you'll get half a Bloodletter. And in Army's Payon, you will get a singular stack towards your, oh, what do they call it? Oh, they don't call it anything, right? It's only called Army's Coda when it's used for the next skill, spell, song in your rotation. Regardless, it makes you attack faster. It's a 4% reduction per stack. Goes all the way up to 16%, which is pretty wild. And on top of that, Bard got some sizable buffs in that your buffs now apply to yourself. Like you Wanderer's Minuet, now you get that 2% crit rate. Mage's Ballad, you get that 1% damage. Army's Payon, you get that 3% D-hit buff. Battle Voice self-applies by 20%. 20% D-hit buff, it's insane. And now we also have Radiant Finale, another massive party buff, which in your opener will be hitting for 2%, and in your 2-minute re-opener will be hitting for 6%. Bard's in a really solid spot, especially since they allowed our songs, as well as Battle Voice and Radiant Finale, to apply to ourselves. So, let's talk about like the general rotation you're going to be going through. You will always be starting in Wanderer's Minuet. At the moment, you will be going into Mage's Ballad, but cutting it short, and then you will be going into a full-length Army's Payon. The reason why we're doing that right now is because Wanderer's Minuet is our strongest song, we want to spend the most amount of time in there. Mage's Ballad is our weakest, we want to spend the least amount of time in there. And Army's Payon applies a buff when it ends, called Army's Coda, which I don't think there's a way to read except for this. There we go. So this giant pile of crap essentially says that when you exit Army's Payon, depending on how many repertoire stacks you had, you will get a buff for a certain amount to reduce your cast time and recast time, as well as auto attack delay by up to 12% if you got full stacks, and that will last for 10 seconds. That is your Army's Coda effect that I was discussing earlier. So that's why you want to spend as much time in there at the end of your rotation as you can, because you want to have that buff going into Wanderer's Minuet for your 2-minute burst window, because it will give you more damage during it, because Wanderer's Minuet is our strongest song, because of Pitch Perfect being so powerful, all the way up to 360 potency when you're at 3 stacks. So why are we cutting Mage's Ballad short at the moment? It's just currently our weakest song. You only get half procs of Bloodletter when it happens, and Bloodletter is only 110 potency. So you need 2 procs to get a full Bloodletter, and on top of that, Bloodletter is just not that strong. So we would just rather be sitting in Army's Payon, just hitting our burst shot faster. On average, it will amount to more DPS. This could change in the future. This is not a definitive guide for all time for Bard. This is how it is before the release of the first Savage tier. So, let's talk about the opener. The opener is you will hit Stormbite, and then you will double weave Wanderers and Raging Strikes. You hit Caustic Bite, you will double weave Imperial Arrow and Bloodletter. You will hit Burst Shot, you will double weave Radiant Finale and Battle Voice. Then you will hit one more either Burst Shot or Refulgent Arrow. You will weave in either Sidewinder or Barrage, depending on if you had a proc or not. If hitting this Burst Shot gave you a Refulgent Arrow, then you will weave in Sidewinder, because you can't use Barrage to give you Sidewinder. You will hit the Refulgent, and then use Sidewinder, use Barrage to give you the Refulgent. If you didn't have a Refulgent, you will use Barrage to give you it, and then you'll use Sidewinder afterwards. And then you will reapply your dots using Iron Jaws at the very end, right when Raging Strikes and Radiant Finale are about to fall off, for maximum damage increase on your dots. The dots are still an important part of the rotation, even if they aren't the things that are giving you procs anymore. Your songs now just have an 80% chance to give you repertoire on the server ticks, or every 3 seconds. Leads me to my next tip and trick for Bard, is that you will cut your song quote-unquote short by about 2 seconds. When your timer on your song says 3 seconds remaining, you can no longer get any procs. Once it says 3, that is the last chance you had to get a proc. you can end the song right after that. Obviously, for Wanderers, you will want to use your last proc before you leave. But for Army's Payon, it doesn't matter as much. What matters for Army's Payon is that you can immediately go into Wanderer's Minuet, so you will leave Armies when Wanderers is up. As for Mage's Ballad, there's two weird things about it right now. Two very weird things. First of all, you will be ending it with around 13 seconds left on your timer, which sounds really weird to say out loud, but that's how it is. And you will also be hitting an apex arrow inside of it. Because of the more deterministic nature of our procs now, between being able to manually cause them with Imperial, which always used to be a thing, it's still a thing, and them just happening more often, because of them happening on the server tick, and so even during downtime of your dots being either not on the boss or boss is untargetable or whatever, you'll still be gaining procs towards your apex arrow. At 22 seconds left in Mage's Ballad, even if you have an apex arrow that's not full, like that's not at 80% gauge, or sorry, 80 gauge, you will still hit that button, because if you don't, you will be completely overcapped for a massive amount of time going into your Wanderers. Because the next time your apex gauge gets full, your soul voice gauge, silly names I know, you will be holding it until you are inside of Wanderer's Minuet and you have Raging Strikes, Radiant Finale, and Battle Voice all three up. So that during your burst window, you will be hitting a massive apex arrow as well as your massive follow-up blast arrow underneath all of your party buffs, as well as your own personal buffs for the largest amount of damage you can. Which is really nice. So while Mages has a bit of weirdness in that you'll end it early, as well as you'll hit an apex inside of it, even if you're not at full gauge, the rest of the kit flows pretty smoothly right now and feels really freaking comfy. Outside of that, Bard's kind of the same as it's always been. It's in probably the best place that I've personally felt since probably previous expansion when it felt really good, which is just hearsay on my part, not actual knowledge. The Bard's super comfy. The rotation feels great, even if Mages feels a little strange, and as you're about to see, while it does get a bit busy during its 2-minute window of Raging, Radiant Finale, Battle Voice, you just kind of get to chill out during the rest of your rotation and just make sure you're hitting your OGCDs as they come up. The gameplay that follows will show you the opener in its proper form, as well as generally when to cut the songs, because our rotation is essentially 43 seconds of Minuet, and then, if I can do my math right, 23 seconds of Ballad, and then 43 seconds of Payon to hit our 120-second rotation. Somewhere in there. Something wild like that. But either way, thanks for hanging out, thanks for watching, hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, like, comment, subscribe. The opener will be soon to follow, and I hope to catch you in the next one.